Hey, Seth David here with the world famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated, and in this edition of Nerd's Guide to the Galaxy, I want to talk to you about pumpkin patch accounting. Yes, I know this is very timely. This should be a fun way to take a look at how to do some manipulating on the balance sheet in terms of inventory. We're talking specifically about a situation where we're going to have some pooled costs, right? And then we're going to need to take those pooled costs. Once we know what our yield is, once we know how many pumpkins we've produced, we need to absorb those costs into the final inventory number. So should be a fun way to take a look at this. Let's take a look at my screen and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so I have a new company here called Nerd's Pumpkin Patch. And the first thing we're going to do, of course, is let's assume we've got the farmland, we've got the plot of land set out that we're dedicating to planting our pumpkins, our pumpkin patch, right? And so we're going to go out and obviously we're going to need to buy some things, starting with the first thing that comes to my mind are pumpkin seeds, right? So we're going to need some of those. So we're going to go record the expense and we're going to call it pumpkin nursery, right? Wherever we might go to the local nursery to buy pumpkin seeds. We'll create that vendor. Okay. And we'll pay for this out of our bank account. Okay. And let's say we're starting this out in the beginning of the year, January 1st. Now here's the kicker. We need a special account for this. And because as I mentioned, we want to pool the cost. So I want to pool the cost of my seeds, the soil, the fertilizer, everything I need to do to get those pumpkins ready to be sold. I want to pool those costs into an account that we're going to put on the balance sheet. It's going to be an other current asset account, and it's going to be pooled costs. I might even be specific for the pumpkin patch, right? Because I might want to do this separately for all the other different areas of my farm where I grow other things. Okay, and the account type, again, is going to be other current assets. That's right there. And down here we have other current assets again, pooled cost pumpkin patch. By the way, a little side tip, anytime you're creating an account like this and you've changed the detail type, double check your name. Sometimes QuickBooks has a way of updating your name based on the detail type. So always double check that. I've gotten tripped up on that many times in my life. So we'll say save and close. Okay, now I don't need to do anything here with items. That's going to come later when we're ready to bring it into inventory, right? So for now, we're going to say I bought 1,000 pumpkin seeds. And I did a little Googling and learned that pumpkin seeds you can get for about 18 cents a piece. I'm assuming an actual farmer would probably get them, for less, right? So 18 cents each. We want 1,000 seeds. That's going to cost us $180. Okay, and I'll save it. Okay, and now we want to take a look at our balance sheet. Maybe later. And there it is, pooled cost, $180. So now let's buy some soil. From here on out, I'm just going to make the numbers up because I have no idea what it costs. I'm not a farmer. Doubt I ever will be. But let's just say over the time between January and we're getting ready to open up the pumpkin patch to the public, I'm just going to push this forward to like August 31st. Okay, so again, I'm going to say pooled costs for the pumpkin patch. And you probably want to put something in the description that explains exactly what this is. So I'll say soil. I should go back to the other one and say pumpkin seeds. Let's say we spend, I don't know, $1,500 on soil. I have no idea what it would really cost. Okay, so now that pooled cost number is going to grow. 1680. Let's go fix the original transaction because this kind of stuff's very important. Right, so let's go back to the seeds. And we'll put seeds here. And then I noticed as I was waiting for this screen to refresh that in the other transaction I didn't put a payee. So let's assume we get the soil also from the pumpkin nursery. No, I do not want to pre-fill anything. Save and close. And by the way, this is something I do, separate and apart from what today's lesson's all about. Always just take your time, look at the reports, make sure information is showing up. Now look how nice this looks when I'm drilled into the pumpkins, the pooled costs account for the pumpkin patch. I can see right here in the memo and description exactly what it is I paid for. Because again, when the whole category is pooled costs for the pumpkin patch, I wouldn't know by just looking at this, what was what. So really important to be very detailed about this kind of stuff. Okay, and we'll add in one more expense just to give it some stuff in there, some substance to work with. Okay, and again, we'll go to the pumpkin nursery. And again, we're adding pooled costs. Okay, and let's say this time we're going to get some organic pesticides. We don't want those toxic chemicals. We want organic. And let's say that's, I don't know, $1,000. Save and close. Oops, somehow, even though I'm pretty sure I had pooled costs in there, it went away. Let's try that again. Perfect. Okay, 2680. So now I have, let's say it's September 1st or later in September, whenever it is that pumpkin farmers and nurseries do these things. I'm getting ready to open it up to the public so people can start buying their pumpkins for Halloween. So let's say it's like September 29th or something. And what I want to do is I want to count up how many pumpkins actually grew in the field. I planted 1,000 seeds, but let's assume not all 1,000 seeds will sprout into beautiful sellable pumpkins. So let's say the yield, right, what we actually got out of it at the end of the day was 990 pumpkins. So what I want to do now is I want to add that inventory onto my books, absorb those costs that are in the pooled costs so that we'll end up with a per unit cost based on a yield of 990 pumpkins. So very easy to do. We're going to go new. And we don't want to lose our place. We want to remember that we need 2,680. So what I'll do is I'll duplicate my tab. Okay, and that way I keep my place here if I need to get back in case I forget the number. And I'm just going to create a new expense. Okay, and the pay here doesn't actually matter because it's going to be a $0 expense. But let's just put ourselves in there because I don't like to leave a transaction without some kind of a vendor. Right, so I'll create a new vendor for Nerd's Pumpkin Patch, which is me. Okay, and we'll do this as of September 30th. This should be the day you actually counted the pumpkins. Okay, we're going to skip the category part. Let's go create our pumpkin product. Right, and this is very simple, assuming there aren't different varieties of pumpkins that I care to track or any of that. All right, so we're going to do inventory part. Okay. PMPK for the SKU. All right, we'll skip the category and all that for now. Now here, I believe I have a pumpkin sales account. So cost of goods sold, we don't need anything else in here. Let's hit save and close. For starting quantity, I'll say 0. As of date, I don't care. Just in case when I get to this, I always just like to backdate it really far in the past because whatever date you put in here, it's going to prevent you from entering transactions prior to that date. And I guess Windows decided this was a good time to send me all kinds of pop-ups. Okay, and everything else looks good. And so we need 990 pumpkins that we counted up. Okay, and for a total cost of 2,680, we want to back into the rate. All right, so that's going to be that long decimal, which is fine. I don't really care. I want to absorb the entire 2680. Now we're going to go back up into the category. and we're going to take it out of pooled costs, and that has to zero out, so minus 2680. That's why I don't care if I have a weird decimal for the unit cost. The most important thing is that this number zeroes out to the penny, and you'll see it'll get moved into the inventory asset account when I save the transaction. Okay, so I don't really need anything else. I will hit save and close. And once again, maybe later. And sure enough, there it is. So this zeroes out perfectly. That's why you probably want a separate pooled cost account for every different crop or every different plot of land that you have, right, that you might grow. Now I'm going to get all kinds of calls from farmers wanting me to do their accounting for them in QuickBooks Online. Please don't. I have no experience with it. I'm literally just making this up. If it happens to be accurate in terms of how this might work, it's purely coincidence. I'm mainly just trying to have fun showing people how to manage inventory in QuickBooks Online. So we've got the inventory asset, right? Now this is an exciting day. So here we are. We've spent the whole year, working our crops, getting our pumpkins to grow, getting ready for the season, and now we're ready to open up the pumpkin patch, right? So here's what happens. So this family comes in, right? Father, mother, 2 kids, boy and a girl, and they're having just a great time. It reminds me of why I wanted to be a pumpkin farmer in the first place. Seeing this family, all the joy they're getting, they're taking videos and selfies and just having all kinds of fun here at my pumpkin patch, and I'm excited because it's my first customer for the season, and they're going to buy 4 pumpkins from me, right? So as it appears they're getting ready to come over and pay for their pumpkins, all of a sudden the FBI shows up and scoops them away. And there I'm left standing going, hey, is anybody going to pay for these pumpkins? And the FBI just carts them off, pumpkins and all. And come to find out that the family's under investigation for violating child labor laws, for trying to make them into models that they're using for marketing purposes so they can deduct their trip to the pumpkin patch. And now I have to write off 4 pumpkins that I've lost. Here's how this looks in QuickBooks Online. So we go over here, and first order of the day, quite literally, is I have to write off the 4 pumpkins. Let's go to New, and we're going to create a sales receipt. Okay, and in a scenario like this, I'm probably not going to record individual customers in QuickBooks Online, so let's just create a generic customer. So pumpkin patch customers, and we'll add that in. Obviously, I don't need any details other than the name. Okay, and we'll say this happens on October 1st. Okay, and here what we're going to do is I'm going to bring up my product, my pumpkins. Okay, we're going to sell 4 of them for $0. Now, before I save this, I just want to confirm something that I should have done when I first confirmed that everything transferred over to the inventory asset, although it wouldn't have if what I'm about to check was not accurate. But I always like to be sort of extra thorough on these things. That's why we call it bulletproof books. Okay, let's go to reports. And I just want to see a product. Let's try inventory valuation summary. That's what I'm talking about. I just want to make sure that this is right, that we got it with a quantity of $9.90, and there's my average cost, right? So now I'm going to write off 4 of these, and this is how you do it. I'm basically selling the 4 pumpkins for $0. Okay, so 4 pumpkins based on this will come out of inventory, go into cost of goods sold, and I get nothing for them. It's a straight up loss. So once I save this, I'll be down to 986 pumpkins, same average cost. Save and close. Wrong one, right? So this should update to 986. There it is. Asset value goes down. Average cost is still basically the same, right? And now if I run my profit and loss, I will see my cost of goods sold, right? I lost $10.83 based on the cost, right? So, right, because the average is $2.70 each times 4. right? So that makes sense. So I always like to, especially when I'm just getting things set up, I like to triple check these things 6 ways just to make sure everything makes sense and lines up. So even though it all seems pretty straightforward, 1083, I go back and say, does that make sense? I have an average cost of 270, so yeah, that makes sense. Okay. That is basically it. One thing I did take the time to do, which you should always do, is I took the time to plan the total yield, or total sales resulting from the yield, which was actually 990. So let's say I'm selling these pumpkins for $10 each. I have no idea what it actually costs to buy a pumpkin. I could have easily Googled that. I didn't. Right? So let's just say they're $10 each. So hopefully we sell all of the pumpkins after that, right? I want to have a happy ending to this story. So I'm just going to record the sales receipt. And let's say this is just by October 31st. Right, we have our pumpkin sales, pumpkin patch customers. Okay, product is pumpkins. We sell 990 of them for $10 a piece, is $9,900. Okay, save and close. Inventory valuation. Let's go through October 31st here. That date is critically important. You're going to get the inventory valuation as of the date you put here, which means if you have sales subsequent to that date, they will not be reflected, right? And now it has me at a quantity of -4, which is curious. Let's click on that and see why. We started with 990. That should have worked out. We started with 990. We wrote off 4. We had 986 left. So something's not right. How do we troubleshoot? Let's take a look. So here's the sales receipt, right? And here's the problem. I put 990. It was 986. Save and close. Survey says I now zero out. Back to the evaluation summary. I now have a quantity of 0 with 0 asset value. Refresh my profit and loss. This has to be through October 31st. Right, and so I grossed $9,860 in pumpkin sales. My cost of goods sold were $2,680 for a profit of $7,180. So I hope you're a better pumpkin farmer than I am, and you make a lot more money than that, or you have other crops to sell the rest of the year. Because I don't know a farm that could survive on just $7,000 a year in profits. So, my friends, that is the story of Nerd's Pumpkin Patch Nursery and your tutorial on pumpkin patch accounting with QuickBooks Online. Since this is an edition of Nerd's Guide to the Galaxy, of course you can post your questions and comments right here on the YouTube video if that's where you happen to be watching this. But you can also jump into our Discord community where you'll find actually a channel for every one of these articles that I create where you can ask questions and provide your own feedback and thoughts and just generally join in on the conversation. So check the description of this video for all the links to all the things that you might need. And I look forward to getting your questions and feedback. As always, I hope you had some fun here and learned something along the way. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.